What's cooking today? Some beef back ribs and some split chicken breasts. Say hey, Michi.
Hey, Michi. I was actually thinking taking a picture of the fall colors too.
Hello, barbecue enthusiasts. It is Sunday, October 6th, 2019. I was supposed to be in Alabama for some seaplane training right now. Off the hook for that, so I'm barbecuing instead. A little follow-up. I think I filmed a little bit in preparation. I don't remember how much, but I entered a barbecue competition a few weekends ago, and I did not win, predictably.
You tied for first for your brisket.
I tied for first in brisket. So it's kind of a weird deal. It wasn't very well organized. It was in a different location, apparently. Infrastructure was an issue. The competitors were not cooking on site. Everybody did their stuff in advance, and I did mine through the night before this thing, and someone had to be there by 10 or 10:30 in the morning.
10:30.
10:30.
And fought a parade.
Yeah, had to go through a parade and everything else. So anyway, I since I didn't get any sleep, I sent the boss in with the product and a whole pack of brisket and some pulled pork. I hadn't done a pulled pork in about 3 years. And the brisket I just sent in so they could carve it on site. And I guess we're the only ones who did that. Everybody else had everything all
prepared.
Yeah, prepped before they got there. So Michi was carving off brisket as they requested it, and that was kind of one of the unfortunate aspects, I guess, because somebody came around and said, we need you to carve, or we need this much brisket and this much pulled pork, which she furnished for him, wherever it was left, and came back 20 minutes later and said, oops, I messed up. I need 4 more portions of each, and left for what, another 20 minutes?
Probably 10 or 15.
Yeah, so anyway, the quality of the product isn't what it should have been anyway. Could have been. So I got a little shut-eye, cleaned up the pit, and then went down and just bought a ticket like John Q. Public and sampled everybody else's product. Kept a low profile and then joined the crowd. Anyway, it was an interesting experience. We'll probably be sailing when this happens again next year, so I don't anticipate we'll enter it again. But yeah, it was nice to find out that and it was kind of an all or none type deal. It was a fundraiser for a college
For future
scholarship.
farmers
Yeah,
of America.
FFA, Future Farmers of America. So I doubt we'll be around next year. We'll probably be up on Lake Michigan sailing. So, and competition isn't my thing anyway. But I was kind of gratified to find out that we tied for first in brisket. Michelle had the impression that the lady who won, and it wasn't a winner take all type deal. It was just there was a winner and no second place or third place or anything like that.
Mhm.
But Michelle had gotten the impression that the lady who won did everything in the oven. In fact, only one other entrant had anything with a smoke ring on it. And as I understand it, according to Michelle, a lot of people commented on the smoke ring on my brisket.
The public said smoke ring gets an A+.
Cool. So, but nonetheless, I'm still a loser.
Stop.
And today we had, I had an errand to run, so I didn't get the ribs on till late. Beef ribs tonight for dinner. And I'm going to be out here till after dark, probably getting those ready to go. So it's going to be a late one. Well, now I've gone through all that. There's nothing to see here. That's about it. Actually, if you're interested in motorcycles, we're going to film a little bit of a trip up to the San Juan Skyway for the color tour tomorrow on a motorcycle. Taking the scooter out.
Freeze our tails off.
Freeze our tails off. And anybody tunes in this channel for aviation stuff, sorry, the seaplane stuff ain't happening, at least not now. And the airplane's going in for annual. Pretty quick, so I'm not going to be doing much flying again. If you tune in here, what? What do you want me to look at?
Anything but me.
If you tune in for any of the boating stuff, I still have a couple of the last 2 legs of our trip up to Wisconsin, Lake Michigan, that I haven't posted yet. Those will be forthcoming. And as far as barbecue stuff, I'm tapped out. There's nothing left to do. I do have this PK grill here I've been using, been getting some interesting results after I've had a little more experience with that. I might share my thoughts on that one. So anyway, just enjoying an autumnal barbecue with my honey bun. Yep, it's another pointless video produced by this chucklehead. Hello, barbecue enthusiasts. It is Friday, September 13th. Friday the 13th. Friday, September 13th, 2019. And you're not apt to get much out of this video other than a little schadenfreude at my expense. Allow me to explain. About 10 days or 2 weeks ago, I was contacted by the organizer of a barbecue competition. It's a fundraiser, wanting to know if I'd be interested in participating, and I must have had a lapse in sanity as I agreed to it. So anyway, that's what I'm doing tonight. I've been publicly critical of other people's barbecue. If a half a dozen views on an unheard of YouTube channel can be considered public, I guess. So for that, I am about to get some comeuppance, I believe. I'm not a competition cook. I've never even entertained doing anything like that. I've watched enough YouTube and Food Network stuff to know that in order to compete, you've got to marinate, inject, and do a bunch of stuff to pack a bunch of flavor into just 1 or 2 bites of meat. And I'm not that kind of cook. So tomorrow, I'm all but certain I'm going to have my ass handed to me in a severe shellacking. As I mentioned before, this is a fundraiser. It's being sponsored by the FFA. That's the Future Farmers of America, for those of you in Rio Linda. They're funding a scholarship fund of some kind. So it's for a good cause. The entry fee was pretty steep. The good news is that they did provide the meat. When I first heard about this, my understanding was that it was going to be brisket is compulsory and pulled pork was optional. I went ahead and did the pulled pork after I agreed to do that. I realized it's been 3 years since I've done any pork shoulders. Not because I don't like them, but they're quite large typically, and a couple 3 pulled pork sandwiches goes a long way with me. So we try to use the rest of the stuff and ingredients, but often goes to waste. So I just don't make them very often. And again, it's been over 3 years, so it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. The briskets I do on a regular basis, of course, but again, it goes back to the whole competition thing. I'm sure some of the participants in this are going to be competition savvy, and they're going to do it, they're going to be doing their injections and marinades and all that, which mine is not going to have. So again, I expect to do fairly poorly on this deal. To kind of hedge my bets a little bit, I ordered a couple of extra briskets from the same supplier that they got their meat from, and I'm glad I did. They do this every year apparently, but this year they're doing things a little bit differently, and as a consequence, I'm going to shut this back up for the time being. As a consequence, there are some signs of some unorganization or disorganization. They ordered the briskets. They were supposed to be in the 18 to 20 pound range when they actually arrived, and the ones I ordered the same size that the competition was ordering. When they turned up, they were actually about 8.5 pounds each. So at the last minute, some of the briskets were large enough that the competitors are going to get a full-size brisket. Lucky me, I'm one of the guys that got an 8.5 pounder, and then they supplemented a 12 pounder, so we come out around 20 pounds. And that's just to make sure that everybody who's buying a ticket gets enough food. And like I say, I bought a couple of other briskets, but I'm glad I bought a couple extra so I could kind of cull the briskets a little bit, because two of them were really kind of funky cuts of meat. Most of the fat cap was missing on one side. There were a bunch of big patches. Even the better of the smaller briskets had a big chunk. I had to patch up the fat cap down there with some trimmings off of the other brisket. And I've got these really funky ones on the top shelf, since they don't have much of a fat cap underneath, just to keep them as far away from the radiant heat as possible. And then of course the two pork shoulders over here, or butts. I just said a naughty word. So these have been on for about 2 hours. I'm just going to do the briskets the way I always do them. They're going to get wrapped in butcher paper once I get some good color on them, and then foil and put back on the smoker. That's probably going to happen around between 10 o'clock and midnight tonight. This cook started about 4 o'clock this afternoon. I had a couple of options. One was just to start the cook and go all the way through. The other was to start the cook earlier today, get them to the point where I wrap them, put them in an improvised Cambro, and pick up the cook at some point early in the morning again tomorrow. This thing starts at 10:30. The judging starts, and I'll kind of go through what they were doing. They had originally planned on doing the cook on site, and due to, again, the changes that they had this year, due to lack of infrastructure or facilities or whatever, they're allowing the competitors to cook at home, which is advantageous for me because it allows me to use this smoker. It's actually my favorite. The only smoker I have with some portability doesn't give quite as good a results. It would have been fine, I'm sure, but this one's a little nicer. The hitch is I'm 50 miles away from the event, and I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. I was going to sleep in, but woke up at 4, couldn't get back to sleep, climbed out of bed at about 5 o'clock. So by the time this cook wraps up tomorrow morning, I'll have been up for 24 hours, or, well, probably longer than that. So well in excess of 24 hours. So I think I'm going to send my wife to the event to carve the brisket and everything, and I'm just going to stay at home and sleep. So fleshing out the details, once again, it's a cook at home, take your product to the competition. I was originally told it was going to be a people's choice thing. We just got the information today, the day before, on everything that's expected of us. So it turns out that there is going to be a 5-judge panel, and that the total score of both your pulled pork and the brisket are going to determine the winner. And it's actually a pretty hefty cash prize. I was surprised, but I don't have to worry about what to do with that money because I'm never going to see it. So it is going to be judged. It is going to be both a people's choice. So I guess you get some feedback as far as that goes, and then these guys are going to judge the thing. And I say these guys, I don't know that it's going to be guys. It's probably guys and gals. I haven't the slightest idea what kind of qualifications they have or anything else. And it really doesn't matter. I stand a snowball's chance in hell of doing very well in this thing. I'm all but certain.